All right, welcome to another episode of the Middle Aged Metahead. And today we've got co-host, regular contributor Abhishek Sen, vocalist for a whole bunch of bands, including Kill the King, Bloodkill, and Radionuclides, who are releasing their single in a couple of days. Who've just dropped some pretty interesting looking artwork as well. Anirudh, and bass player, songwriter for Djinn and Miskatonic, author, poet, animal rights activist, Jayaprakash Satyamurthy. Hello, gentlemen.
What's going on?
So today we've got a very, very interesting topic, probably the toughest discussion we've done yet. We're calling it the King of the Dungheap or the eighth album Blues. And funnily enough, when I was randomly looking up these four albums, it turned out that they were the eighth full length albums by each of these bands, which is commonly referred to as the Big Four. So we're going to be looking at Anthrax's Volume 8, The Threat is Real, Metallica's Saint Anger, Slayer's Diabolus and Musica, and Megadeth's Risk. And by the end of this discussion, we should have crowned a winner and seen which is the best album of these four. And we may never listen to these albums ever again, but I'm sure all the guys that you see here did a lot of homework because I could sense the complaints and the frustration on our WhatsApp group. But yeah, for what it's worth, this has been a very dedicated effort on our part so far. So well done, boys. Okay, and we'll start off alphabetically. So we'll start with Anthrax's Volume 8, The Threat is Real. And I'll hand over the space to Ani since he's our resident Anthrax fanboy.
Okay. Wow.
Curtain jerking here as well. Just imagine.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. The only reason I'm laughing is like the sheer ridiculousness of this entire exercise, with the way that we went about this. But okay. So starting off with Volume 8, The Threat is Real. I think so. I out of the four albums, I think this is the album that I listen to the most, and that's like a very loose way of saying it. It's the best of the heap for me. What I feel is that this album was literally Anthrax just drawing out at all straws and just going towards whichever trend was just kind of coming about at the time. I'm mainly just trying to ape Pantera, I feel. And I mean, even if they got Dimebag and Phil Anselmo for the songs, it just felt like, they were trying to cash in on the same trend that was happening. And a lot of it is very evident because even in the songs that Dimebag isn't there, the guitar literally feels like a Pantera B-side, like the guitar work in the songs. I, however, feel that there are certain songs which are good, at least for by the standard of the overall album. I'd say Crush is a damn good opener. Catharsis, the next track which comes, is energetic and nice. Inside Out's pretty cool. I felt that the music video for it actually makes it kind of up, like, give its appeal because it's like a work on the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And I think after that it starts to dip like heavily. Piss and Vinegar is very like vanilla groove metal sort of shite, and Born Again Idiot starts off nicely aggressive, but then the verses, it just starts dipping, and it's like this very monotone sort of rhythm that just continues on till the end of the song. The only shining moment is again the Dimebag solo that's in there. In Killing Box is fine. They kind of just push that whole Phil Anselmo's doing backing vocals, so yeah, like have John Bush and Phil like do double vocals and stuff like that. A lot of it I feel like this entire part that I've spoken about. And one last thing would be the album closer, Stealing from the Thief. I think that has a damn good chunky groovy riff if you like that sort of metal. Okay. So this would be the good part of this album. And when I say good, it's like using it very loosely because there are so many throwaway tracks in this. You have Toast to the Extras, which is like this ridiculous country song which they've done and made me hate the band for a brief bit. And to people who know me, I am a diehard Anthrax fan. And if I am hating a band for that duration of 6 minutes, you know that like song is shit. Toast to the Extras is one. Then there is those 40-second intro, like 40-second tracks, 604, and
Oh God.
I can't even remember the song names, but those are like
Papa Joe.
Capucho,
yeah, Kapajo. And
Alpha Male.
Alpha Male is just like Five Finger Death Punch precursor at this point in terms of the lyrical content that is there. And those two tracks, like Kapajo and 604, is like they're trying to be stormtroopers of death, but failing miserably at it. In terms of fast and short tracks, but they can't, like, it's not even 1/4 of that entire vibe that they're trying to go for.
Yeah, it's interesting why you mentioned Stormtroopers of Death. Sorry to interrupt you, but because that is the time that they were actually planning to bring it back together. But I'll get into it in a little bit later.
Yeah, so Big Fat is the, I think, biggest throwaway track in this entire song, like the album, because it's like 6-7 minutes of absolutely nothing. Like
6-7 minutes, huh?
I think so. It feels like it's like a doom metal song at this point, but in terms of how long it feels, but it's like you're sitting there and it's just playing, and it's like elevator music, but even blinder, certain degree. So like that song, why does it exist? That and Toast to the Extras really made me feel like, yeah, this is easily the worst album in their entire catalog. And this is coming from a John Bush era fan. Okay, if like couple of videos ago I was hailing Storm 442 as one of my favorite in 95, and for all its misgivings, I feel that it was still like experiments tried and failed, or them trying to go into a helmet sort of direction with some of the vibe that they were going for. I felt that at least the first few songs hit nicely, and even the back end of the catalog, while it may not be as strong, it had its shining moments, American Pompeii notwithstanding. But Volume 8, I think 5-6 tracks in straight dip, and only at like the end of it, Stealing from a Thief, and it kind of picks up, and there's like this hidden track which Frank Bello dedicated, called Pieces, to his brother at the time who got shot. So it was like a dedication to him. So that's a little heartfelt, but then I wouldn't want to include it in the equation of the overall album. I feel that this was just them trend hopping with a lineup which was limp in terms of like in terms that they didn't have a proper lead guitarist, and they were not kind of, I guess, ready to give Paul Crook his dues during the 90s. So because he has also done the rest of the solos along with Charlie on both Stomp and Volume 8.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I feel that this was like a big mistake in terms of the trend hopping thing that they did. Like they tried and followed, and then they just crashed. It's like the bands who try to copy Nickelback, trying to catch a trend because they succeeded, and then they fall flat on their face. So, but yeah, I mean, out of the 4 albums, I think I prefer this the most, and that is the only reason why I'm giving this like a 7 out of 10. Maybe I'll give it a 6. Fuck it, I can't give any album more than a 6 here. Yeah, so it's a 6 on 10 from my end.
So there are a couple of, I think, one thing that I feel most of us will come back to in this exercise is all of these bands were trying to find themselves, find a sound, find who they were, because all of these bands were massively successful leading up to this album or the album prior to this.
Or even before.
Yeah. So Metallica was touring the world, and then they were internally extremely dysfunctional. Megadeth dealing with drugs, dealing with personal issues. Anthrax. I mean, this album, this was written when Scott Ian who is the primary songwriter of almost all of their material. Scott Ian was going through his second divorce, and he had moved out of New York and had moved into LA, and he was struggling to pay his bills. He was drinking too much. And this album, in his autobiography, he says it was like a release for him. All of these songs are extremely cathartic, and they are, another thing about especially this album and another album, two albums we will speak a little bit later, they don't seem to have actual songs. They have various ideas cobbled together.
Absolutely.
Nothing really flows, barring one album on this list. So I feel these are all albums where, like you rightly mentioned, Nani, this is essentially them trying to channel something like a helmet. but then failing to do so.
This was not even Helmet. I think Stomp was like at least trying to do Helmet. This was just Pantera worship and failing miserably.
Yeah. Because even then, like Scott, to this day, he keeps on defending this album, and the sales he puts down to the fact that I don't blame him that they were signed to Ignition, and they had
Yeah,
made a conscious choice not to sign on to Metal Blade or Century Media.
they had a bad this thing with Elektra also, na? That's why they
Yeah, because the Elektra and Island fucked them over with the royalties and all of that, so, which is why they did not want to go that direction, which is, I think, they would, in heart of hearts, they would still regret as to, because that they were not that competent.
This killed the band. And like, if nothing else, like, I think the one positive aspect I find about it is not in the songs, it's in the booklet. If you kind of open the booklet, it's like one huge horror movie poster that happens in the inlay. And I think that's the coolest part of the entire album.
No, I think the coolest part is the opening song, dude. I mean, I love Crush. Crush is one of my favorite Anthrax songs.
And I think it was used in one video game also. I don't remember, but I think it was I don't remember it now, but I remember hearing it in some background of skateboard game or something it was. I don't remember. But yeah. And Guitar Hero, I guess. But those are things that are coming way later.
I can see GK just waiting to unleash. He's just coiling right now.
No, I feel like both of you are being way too kind, or maybe I'm being too cynical. But this is not the sound of a band trying to find itself or catharsis or any of that. This is a very cynical attempt to gain more listeners. Right? That's why it's such a hodgepodge of ideas. That's why it's like it goes from country to groove metal to bits of random nonsensical hardcore. And also, I don't really get the Pantera influence so much as I'm hearing a lot more Tommy Victor in these guitars.
Yeah, it's Helmet.
Especially something like Killing Box. That's like hardcore prong cleansing ripoff.
Actually, yeah.
And apart from that, though, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty bad album. Like, yeah, okay, Crush is okay. Even Killing Box, the main riff itself is fine, although it does remind me of way better prong songs. But that's the one where Anselmo guests, right?
Yeah, he did the backing vocals.
Yeah.
Backing vocals.
And I feel like John Bush did a fantastic job in spite of these songs. Like, he was the MVP on what was really
shittiest song of the catalog.
a really, really shitty album. But yeah, I don't know, maybe my point of view is very cynical, but I feel like, yeah, this was a total attempt at a cash grab, which deservedly failed.
And the backlash that it got in terms, because Anthrax, I don't think ever recovered from that failure in terms of the fan reach and everything.
I think they did recover since Dan Spitz left. They've never recovered since. But I think that is another thing which we can speak about once we've spoken about all the albums. Perhaps that is another huge topic that we can dive in. Let's have a JP. What are your thoughts on?
Well, I thought that if you're talking about Anthrax trying to update their sound, find a new sound, they did that with Sound of White Noise. And it was a good album. It was actually a good album for what it was. It fit in with the zeitgeist, yet it was still recognizably Anthrax. It had good lyrics, it had good songs. Storm 442 was the same, but not as good. And I think this was just them trying to do a three-peat, and it really didn't work. There are times when it doesn't even feel like metal to me. It just feels like washed out modern rock with heavier guitar patches. And I think John Bush is singing his heart out here, but the material is not there. We're going to see this on all the albums we're talking about in this episode, but there is so much lyrical repetition. I feel like I'm in a remedial class and the teacher's shouting some very basic point, like economics 101 or remedial biology to me again and again and again. And I'm like, I get it, I get it, I get it. I'm not as dumb as you think I am. This lyrical repetition in this phase is horrible. And I really, really will not let Anthrax off the hook because they did this well just 2 albums back. And they
Yeah,
did this
absolutely.
okay 1 album back. So I personally, and the bad material here is god awful. There's like 3 songs when you think, okay, I don't really think this is great, but it's working. And then it just starts spiraling further and further away. And like I said, they did this better, you know? There's just a massive failure of inspiration and I think effort.
Yeah.
So I would give this a 3 on 10.
Okay, no. Don't sugarcoat it.
I mean,
Because they can do
it's
this better. They did it
Yeah,
twice.
100%.
and
Yeah.
and I'd like to say this, for as much as we are calling John Bush the MVP of this album, after a point in time, his vocals start to grate a lot.
Yeah.
Like, how much more will you just yell as much as you can till your vocal cords just tear off? Like, one thing that I really liked about Sound of White Noise was it was still like armored sainty sort of John Bush going in. This is just like frat boy vibe that he's trying to go for, and it gets grating like 5 6 songs in. And again, this is coming from me. When I'm saying 5 6 songs and it's going grating, yeah, steer clear.
I know that, after this album, there was quite a complicated history of Bush either leaving or not leaving,
I think
Joey
that
either
was the
coming
next
back or
album.
not coming back,
That was the next album.
touring together, not making an album together, Joey going away again, Bush touring with them a bit and then going. I mean, I don't know what the dynamics between John Bush and the rest of the band really are at this point. Doesn't feel to me like they were in the best
See,
place.
I think Volume 8 was still the era where these four guys were like still close. It's after We've Come For You All where the differences started arising, because Anthrax, again, in a attempt to like cash in on the like fans that they kind of lost out, they were like, we'll bring the classic Among the Living lineup back. So they went on a tour at around like 2005. And then John Bush came back briefly and they asked him to rejoin the
Yeah,
band again.
so
Then they got this fellow
confusing.
called Dan Nelson,
Yeah.
completely forget, like made recorded demos and then didn't do anything with them. John Bush came back and then again they brought Joey back. So after I think We've Come For You All, it just became like a business transaction in like terms of the vocalists, whoever they can get after a point in time, because the nostalgia tour that they did for like the Among the Living lineup, uh, like Joey left again, or I think he left or they parted ways with him again. I'm not really sure on now, but yeah, like that whole hodgepodge of vocalists. After a point in time, I think now the only relation that the band has is amongst the like three of the like long-standing members. It's Frank, Scott, and
That's always been the case with them. It's always been the three New Yorkers
Yeah.
duking it out with the others. And with this, and judging by, I don't know why, most likely because I was getting into heavy music at this time. I've owned all of these on tape. These are some of the first albums that I've ever bought. I remember standing in line to wait in front of a music store to buy Saint Anger. Believe it or not. But I have these were some of my first introductions to these bands.
sorry,
So
bro.
What a
um,
terrible time for it. What a terrible time for it. You
yeah.
were only 5 years older.
So um,
Sorry.
so the point I'm trying to make is these guys, Scott especially, Scott and even Charlie was on the outs at that time. A, they were doing it for money because they were really cash strapped, and B, this is again, like I mentioned, this was a very turbulent time in his personal life. He was coming off a divorce. He moved base from New York to LA, and then the company fucked him over, and then he kind of had a working relationship again with Billy Milano, where they started off with Stormtroopers of Death, which went south again. So you can understand, if you see things from their perspective, it kind of makes sense why this album is the way it is. But yeah, I mean, if I have to rank it, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. And that 4 out of that 5 is just for Crush. Aside from that, the album is not worth it.
Yeah.
Cool. So it's a 4 from me.
6 from me, and I think 3 from JP.
Yeah.
Cool.
So sometimes when I was playing this album on streaming and just letting it go, stuff would, you know how streaming services will start automatically queuing up similar songs by other
Mm.
bands for you after the album. So I would every now and then get something like Cold Chamber suddenly popping up, which was A, horrible, but B, I also realized, my God, this is the context in which these older bands are struggling to, find a footing, stay relevant. Because the generation of fans who had been loyal to their original sound were also going through suddenly, adulthood is happening and you're not stepping out for concerts as much because you've got a family, you've got a job, and so on. And the kids who are turning out for concerts are the ones who are making bands like Cold Chamber and many, many others big. So I kind of understand the identity crisis, the trend hopping. Uh, Abhishek mentioned that these are all bands that have been immensely successful. So for them to suddenly not be successful made a difference. It's not like they were underground heroes who could just continue, never getting paid, never getting laid, but making the music they believed in. So
Mm.
I do understand in context, if something like Cold Chamber is turning up on the radio and you see that they're moving the kind of units that you were a year or two or 5 years ago, yeah, I get it. I, I understand that you need to sort of look at the state of play in the metal genre at the time. Okay, that's the last thing I have to say about this album.
All right, so that's Volume 8, The Threat is Real by Anthrax. We move on to Megadeth, Risk. Who wants to take this on?
So I think Abhishek is the only person who really likes it, and he's disappeared.
Okay, so I'll start and Abhishek can
He's back.
rebut
Sir,
me.
I am back. There's something wrong
Uh-huh.
with my video, but you can start,
Oh,
GK.
okay. So yeah, Risk. I mean, my first memory of Risk is I think the song "Crush 'Em" premiering on World Championship Wrestling as the entry to Bill Goldberg. And I don't know if Goldberg was making a comeback from one of his many injuries. I don't remember that bit, but
One
Megadeth
second,
was on
pause,
live.
GK. Are you a
Uh,
WCW fan?
Used to be long back, yeah. But yeah, so
There's
that was when I first
autobiographies
heard.
and all by all those people.
Yeah, that I do. Yeah. Mm. But yeah, that was the first time I heard Crush It. I was like, yeah, okay, it sounds pretty okay, hard rock song, whatever. And then the album comes out, I buy the tape, and it's like Somni, Omni, Omni, Omni. Fuck hell, man. What a horrible opener. Like, oh God, that
Can't
song.
sleep.
Yeah. I mean, that song is. And it's like, one of those horrible songs that becomes a earworm and it keeps going on and on in your head. And I don't know, like Mustaine, God, it was terrible. Then after that, you had Prince of Darkness. It was like, okay, I guess it was still recognizable in some form or way. And then, of course, you had Crush 'Em, which was fine, but it doesn't really hold up. And then you had Breadline, which is like this ridiculous schizophrenic song, which is, I don't know, it's like about homelessness, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And this dude who's on the breadline, but then this chorus is so bright and poppy, and it's like he's singing about being on the breadline and being homeless, but it's sounding so Bon
Happy about
Jovi-esque and life affirming. But good Lord, now Bad Doctor is Calling was like, I don't know if he was going for like a late 70s Alice Cooper vibe on this song. The
Yeah.
doctor's calling. But again, it just doesn't work, right? Like he's trying to go for creepy, but he's coming off like super cringy. Then there's Wanderlust, which is like pretty basic hard rock. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to do song by song, but this was just one weird and I would say overall pretty rotten Megadeth album. Of course, yeah. I mean, later on, you heard all the stories about how they wanted to do something different. Friedman and Menza wanted to experiment. Mustaine was happy to let them do their thing. And who was the new guy on this? Jimmy DeGrasso.
Digression.
Yeah. DeGrasso wanted to do something heavy, but he was the new guy, so he didn't have much say in the matter. And Mustaine, of course, post facto blamed everything, not in so many words, I guess, but put a lot of the blame on Friedman anyway, to how
Who
this
has no
album is.
songwriting credits on the album.
Yeah,
That
but
is the magic of Sensei Dave.
yeah, seriously.
Magic.
I mean, the lyrics, okay, like Megadeth have always been a little
Iffy.
cringy, maybe, like with their lyrics, but musically, the leads, I can't remember a single guitar lead from this album. Like, even with Euthanasia, which isn't a particularly great album, I still remember the leads from, let's say, Train of Consequences or Reckoning Day or even a Lemon. But here, like, yeah, this is just one of those albums that should never have been released.
This was the era when bands that formerly was so guitar forward were proudly giving interviews that, if we didn't feel that we needed to play a solo on the song, we didn't.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm pretty sure Friedman very proudly said that during some of the interview sessions for this. And I'm sorry, but yeah.
What do you
it
do
didn't
here,
work.
basically?
Huh?
What do you do here? If you can't play guitar solos, what do you do?
Yeah.
See, I really liked. There are a couple of songs here which I genuinely like. Okay, I still think Cryptic Writings is the most underrated Megadeth album that there is.
For sure.
I can agree to that easily.
I am a diehard bhakt when it comes to Rust in Peace, obviously, and Euthanasia. I love Euthanasia.
Same.
It's a fantastic album.
Yeah.
Here, I feel it's a very top-heavy album. Insomnia, yeah, I mean, you can still have that energetic hard rock thing going, when the verses start. Okay, you can see like, okay, fine, I get what they're trying to do. It's very shimmery. They used to be very state of the art when it comes to everything. When you compare the big four, Megadeth was the band which always sounded future forward, even more than Metallica. They had that industrial sheen, so as to say, if I can explain it in that very words. With this, I don't think I think they went a step too far when it comes to production. Crush 'Em, I think, was totally cringe in hindsight, but as a kid, I loved it because I loved two things associated with it. I love WCW and I love Universal Soldier, and you had Van Damme in the fucking video. So for like a 11, 12-year-old kid, it was like, holy shit, would you look at that? That's like fucking cool, right? And then you have Breadline, again, a song that was so overplayed, not just on wherever you went, where I grew up, but cover bands used to cover it all the time for some reason. Now, the first Megadeth songs that you could hear in a gig like late 90s, early 2000s in Shillong was Breadline.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know. I know. And people and it was like, there was a band which used to do it. They had two songs. They could cover Megadeth really well. One was this, and the other was Tornado of Souls. There was no in between. There was no.
What is this
disparity? The duality of Dave.
Yeah, the duality of Sensei Dave. Yes. So this is what it is, and I love the fact that he has gone on and blamed everything on Mustaine, because like I said on the WhatsApp group as well, that while he was promoting that Jesus album, The System Has Failed, right after this, he blamed everything on Marty Friedman. There are conspiracy theories which he has seeded. The video I'm still yet to find. I'll find that video and I'll send it, where he has seeded. He's not said it outright that it's mostly not written by him, like trying to distance himself from this entire fiasco. But yeah, Risk is an album which I feel captures Megadeth's hubris at that moment. Yeah. However, this was an album which deliberately they wanted it to sound this way, unlike the others. The others, Anthrax was running short of ideas. Slayer also were in a rut. Metallica, we will discuss in a little bit. But Megadeth chose to write this. That is where I'm at with this album. So this sounds the way it is by design, not by accident or anything else. Thoughts?
Rating. What's your rating?
What's your rating?
6 out of 10.
I think the best result I got out of listening to this album was appreciating the other Megadeth albums more. Staying in the group, and don't get me wrong, I like Euthanasia, but I never really came back to it. After I heard Risk, I went back to Euthanasia. The effect that it had,
Yeah.
amazing. But on its own, I think the one track that I liked was Prince of Darkness. It it's it has that earwormy sort of chorus, like, but not in a breadline sort of way. And I think that's the only good like track which I could say like I heard it again after the album, so as to see, do I really like it, or is it like that whole earworm thing that happens, like like the track that keeps buzzing in your head after a while also, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think this was all the ideas that they took in cryptic writings in terms of the commercial aspect. They used all of that here and removed all of the elements that made them Megadeth, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like for, and I'm speaking a little about cryptic writings here because as I agree with you in the sense that it's I think one of the more underrated records. There are no cuts like She Wolf here, I feel, or
Exactly.
even Vortex for that matter. While it's like a alternate reality tornado of souls sort of thing going on for it, I feel like there's no songs like that. It's like I,
There are no songs like Almost Honest here.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the song.
Secret Place.
The one that starts with a song sample for like 40 seconds and
Use the Man, dude.
yes, yes. And I feel like Use the Man is a perfect example of a sound which they could have gone with, where it is more commercially accessible, but then it erupts into like this whole flurry of guitar solo and like a sped up sort of outro. I think that they could have done that more, but they kind of just stripped off everything that made them Megadeth in the first instance. And it was just trying to chase that radio trend. Crush Him, I enjoyed the video a lot for the very same reasons that you stated earlier, but it works when and it's the same with Inside Out. It works when I watch the video along with it. It does not work for me when I'm just listening to the song on its own. Because the video kind of enhances the song for me, I feel, in this case. So I feel that this would be a 4.5 for me. Because outside of Prince of Darkness, and I'll include Crush'em for the whole video part of it, I could not find any, as the teacher says, any anchor.
Thoughts on Sensitive's vocal approach here? Let's GK. What are your thoughts on that?
Vocal approach, I don't know. I mean, damn, I never really thought about it. It's like pretty much regular Mustaine, but
No, here he actually tries
little
to
worse
croon
than
and all,
usual because he tries to sing. Yeah,
yeah.
like that snarl, I think, is missing. That that acidic vibe in his delivery is missing. He's trying to smooth out all of the rough edges, and somehow it just kind of falls flat. Like I don't much care for his vocals at all.
Yeah.
Here, I think the only song that has that, very Mustaine, cynical approach, in my opinion, is on Prince of Darkness. Right.
Exact reason why I kind of
when he does that opening spoken word monologue, and then the guitars start ramping up, and when he's still speaking, that is the only part where he sounds angry in this album. Everything else is just sitting back and saying like, haha, hamare zamane mein hum log ye todte the. That's it. Which is essentially what he is trying to do now.
Sometimes on this album, Mustaine sounds so kiddie and bright, and he almost sounds like a pop punk singer. And I was wondering if he was listening to Blink 182 and thinking, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
It just sounds so completely weird.
Hello, me.
Right.
I think that was Headfield, but we'll get to that.
There's a lot of things to get to there.
One thing I would say is that between this and Super Collider, I am at odds now in terms of worst Megadeth output.
So there's a whole bunch of Megadeth albums that I've pretty much blanked out of my memory.
Yeah.
So I don't
13.
remember anything
They
about
become
Upper
they
Light
become
or
beige after
uh,
a certain point, and I have to credit it to him finding God. You know, so I think a lot of the albums where, and I keep making this joke that every time he runs out of ideas, he just inserts a guitar solo,
Yeah.
and every song runs becomes after a point, after like maybe that album which has Washington is next. After that album, half the songs are just Hangar 18 ripoffs. It starts a certain way, there's a tempo shift, and it becomes something else. Like that gives me a segue to one thing I want to talk to you gentlemen about. The new album which is coming out, the final Megadeth album, creatively titled Megadeth. Um, there also, if you see, it's a combination of both these problems. The first song which came out, I can't remember the name of it. There, it's the same issue. It starts off a certain way, there's a tempo change, and then there are 57 guitar solos, which go nowhere, which say nothing. It's just organic practice music. And the second one, called I Don't Care, could fit into this album.
Yeah.
So it's a very cynical approach, I feel. And the most cynical, I know a lot of people online and even on our WhatsApp group have praised this approach of him covering Metallica. So, as the final ever Megadeth song, what are your thoughts on it?
I'm fine with it. I mean, he has a right to do it. He's had this extremely dysfunctional and embarrassing to watch on-off dialogue about what his days in Metallica mean and don't mean to him. But if this, just gives him some inner peace, fine.
GK,
yeah, I mean, he's going to cover what? Ride the Lightning, no?
Ride the Lightning.
Yeah, so after a long while, I'm actually kind of looking forward to something that he's going to do. So yeah, I'm interested for sure.
See,
Let's see what he comes up with.
when the cover is the biggest point that you're looking forward to, I don't
Pretty
think
bad.
it's a good sign for an album.
Yeah.
Especially if it's gonna be a
Yeah,
final.
I haven't cared about Megadeth since Risk. Yeah,
Yeah.
Risk was the last album that I actively listened to. After that, I wouldn't be able to mention even a single song, I think.
I wouldn't blame you if this was the last album that you listened to properly.
Yeah.
I tried to listen to various albums that came out and they got some good press, like United Abominations.
Huh.
Now I'm forgetting the name. The one before the latest one.
Field?
Dystopia.
Yeah.
No,
Either
Dystopia bad.
yeah. So yeah, they're okay. They're certainly better than Risk. But yeah, nothing's stayed with me. So Risk came, just to give you a quick summary of my feelings about Risk. I had been following them album after album since Rust in Peace. And even though I could see there was a change in approach, a change in direction happening with Euthanasia and with Cryptic Writings, I continued liking the albums. I thought there was still enough guitar glory, and the songs are still really good. The riffs were good, and on Euthanasia, when there was, a definite slowing down of the sound, I still remember all of us in my college ground were listening to it on headphones and passing it back and forth, and we're like, he's dragging out the tempos, but you know what? It still sounds like Megadeth, and I continue to like that album. I think they diversified. I think Mustaine sort of reached back to some of his classic rock inspirations, but didn't lose what made Megadeth a metal band or a thrash band. Cryptic Writings is very interesting. I don't know why it's not liked by people. I think it's just a very diverse and interesting package of songs.
Yeah.
And there's something in there for everyone, you know. With Risk, I didn't know it was going to be this big, huge deviation because I wasn't really following interviews and things much. I just went to the shop, I bought the cassette, I put it on, and I was horrified. And sometimes I wondered, was this a badly dubbed tape? Because the guitar sounds, everything just seemed so dreadful to me. And sometimes Indian record companies did have bad tape transfers. But no, this wasn't that at all. This was just what they wanted to sound like. And it's always a bad sign when a long-running band brings in outside songwriters.
Yeah.
It might be a good result for the band. Uh, I don't know if Aerosmith would have survived the 90s without that sort of thing. Uh, but I just don't understand Mustaine bringing in Brian Howie, who was the latest singer of Bad Company, and the guy who used to, you told me, the guy who used to manage Journey.
Man, foreigner.
Yeah, for just don't understand where the connection is. Uh, and I still don't understand how their inputs on this album connect back to what they're famous for either. It's not like they've done credit to themselves and written nice, tight, chart-ready material either.
Yeah.
You know, at least if Brian Howie had brought in some. Okay, Brian Howie was a very respected professional songwriter, the kind of guy who would give you one of those 3 minute chart-ready things, and I respect that. That Mutt Lange talent. The Desmond Child talent. I don't love it, but I respect the ability to write a song that is going to chart, especially from that era, that 80s era. I respect that ability, but these guys didn't bring that either. I don't know what they did. I have no idea what was going on in the writing sessions.
Yeah.
See,
And
I
I would
think
love one day to know because it feels to me like, if you've ever been in a company that's slowly imploding around you and the CEO wants one thing and the board wants something else and the CFO is breathing down everyone's neck and there's a revolt happening on the shop floor. It feels like that.
I'll ask you a question to which you already know the answer.
Hmm.
What album came out in 97, 98?
Oh gosh, I'm blanking. Tell me.
Reload. And prior to
Yes.
that, Load.
Right.
So when I said the other day that
That is a huge
insecure,
context risk.
yeah. So when I said the other day that insecurity is man manifest, and you can find Dave Mustaine's picture right next to that adage, that is true. Because look at the way he mirrored the entire band's career, the
Yeah.
way Metallica did, which they did organically and with superior songwriting and with very canny stagecraft and the way they built that entire image of the biggest metal band to have ever existed. And see what Metallica and see what Megadeth did.
Yeah.
To counter Black Album, they launched an excellent Countdown to Extinction.
Yeah.
Then they went on to Euthanasia, then all of that, which was mirroring what Metallica was doing. And
then
even now, if you see at the way they have planned that the exit, the reunion shows or whatever, I am telling you, and I've said this multiple times earlier also, this is just to outdo Metallica one last time.
Yeah.
And even now, he's just planting the seeds. Right after that video came out of him saying why he wants to, where he's given he's given credit to Hetfield and Ulrich, saying like, these guys were like my friends and we wrote these songs together. Right immediately, a couple of days later, he gave an interview with Rolling Stone where he was the guru, like the old Sensei Dave that we know and love.
Oh.
Went on to say like, I have spoken to James, I can't get in touch with him. And he has still not responded to me asking about how he feels about this. Who gives a shit? You're Dave fucking Mustaine. You are telling me that you can't get in touch with James Hetfield. You know what I mean? So that is what it is. And I'm sure like when Metallica decide to hang up their boots, maybe 2029, 2030, 110% these guys will come back for a reunion show. Because that is how he operates. He just can't let it go.
Very
No,
loosely
but
speaking.
But he also put some of the blame on Ulrich, saying that Ulrich told him that Megadeth needs to take more risks. So that's where the
There you go.
album title comes from.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. If my ex told me, "Hey JP, you should think of taking some very long walks on some very short piers," I wouldn't be saying, "Hey man, you're so right. We had such a good time when we were together, and in your honor, I'm gonna go do this."
And mirror exactly what the X does
Yeah.
every year.
So I remember I also tried watching some interviews from that era because when I re-listened to Risk, I was like, what the hell? Why did this happen? And I remember not just Mustaine, but obviously Elefson and Friedman in interviews have to say something, right?
Mm.
I mean, they're being asked about this album, and you kind of have presented the world with a turd on a platter, but you kind of have to say, hey, look how it glistens and see the little bits of intestine lining on it and all that. So I remember them saying, oh, a lot of heavy bands have sort of gone alternative and tried different things. Metallica did it. Soundgarden made an album that sounded more alt. I think they're referring to Down on the Upside.
Mhm.
And the sheer amount of cope that's going on in Megadeth interviews of this era is difficult to watch because you
Yeah.
cannot compare Soundgarden kind of organically exploring from album to album and doing Down on the Upside, which has a greater preponderance of mid-tempo songs, to even to what Load and Reload were.
Yeah.
Because it's very revisionist to say that Soundgarden were ever just one thing.
Mhm.
Uh, I think, yeah, but
And it's kind of sad also, to his legacy. He just keeps holding on to this hang up of his, because it's been such a huge part of the conversation about Megadeth, his band, and about him as a person
yeah.
as well, that he just can't seem to let it go. And even when they came out for the Big Four tours, and I genuinely thought like these guys will
Yes.
maybe do something together. And it's always, and what I was trying to say is, even if you look at the interviews from this era for Metallica never mentions him. And he's like one hung up ex. He constantly does that, and he does that for all bands. He's like the Gotham Gambhir of metal here. Can't let it go.
And the other thing that came out in the interviews, because I really felt I had to understand Risk this time around. Back then I was young. I just listened to the cake tape a few times and I said, fuck this, and I put it away. The other thing that keeps coming out in the interviews around that era is Mustaine wanted a hit. Mustaine wanted a hit.
Yeah.
And I don't get it. You're a metal band. Uh, you've come up from the underground. You were flying high in that brief period when, okay, yes, late 80s, early 90s, metal was, for a while. I remember when I was going from high school into college, the metalheads on campus were the coolest dudes around.
Yeah.
Rave music and so on hadn't really reared its ugly head in Bangalore. And if you saw a guy with longish hair and a black t-shirt with something morbid on it, he was the cool guy on campus. So, okay, during that brief, beautiful phase, Megadeth had as big a hit as you can expect as a metal band. But didn't Mustaine know you're playing heavy metal, you're not going to have that kind of a hit? Or was he just focusing on the sales of Enter Sandman and why am I not equaling that?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly the
I think
latter.
that's it. Because he had number two.
Playing metal, you're not going to have that kind of a hit. And why do you, I mean, yeah. I don't think we can talk about Marty Friedman. I don't think we can even really blame Howie and the other guy. I think Mustaine was the
Yeah.
architect of his own downfall. And that's
Absolutely.
my rating for this, I'm sorry, is 2.5 because it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I thought maybe the two-part song in the end, Time, what is it?
Time.
The beginning and time.
Beginning and the
Yeah,
time.
I thought that in the hands of an earlier avatar of the band, that could have been developed into something, but to me, it just stands as a fragmentary collection of ideas that have been completely smashed by the hubris of what Dave thought he was achieving at the time.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that entire ghostwriting rumor was put out by Dave.
Yeah.
It'd be like, yeah. But yeah, I would rate this 3. So cool. I
What
think
was
I
my rating
spent
for this? 6, huh?
6, yeah.
4.5 from me, 2.5 from JP, and 3 from
I'm
G.
being ultra charitable, dude.
That was me during the first round.
Yeah. It's okay. Each of us has a little.
For all of Mustaine's second place achievements, I think the one time that he upstaged Metallica was when Megadeth released 13 and Metallica released Lulu. So I think he can take comfort in that.
You had to go there, dude.
We should do a Lulu discussion sometime. Next year, after
as
we've
big
all
as
sufficiently
Metallica,
recovered.
I've never heard that album in its entirety.
Yeah.
You can't.
I will not tolerate any Lou Reed slander, but that album should not have happened.
See, Lou Reed, amazing. Metallica earlier are amazing. Both of them way after their peak.
Metallica till Hardwired also is amazing only. Please.
I even
We
like
go to the album
72
before
seasons.
Death
There's a
Magnet.
good album somewhere in there in 72 seasons. And it's not that deeply buried either.
Which one in Lulu?
No, 72, even 72 seasons
No,
Ah,
has
okay.
got a lot of good songs on it. You don't have to struggle to find 5 or 6 songs on 72 seasons either.
I mean,
Ooh.
Metallica recovered fairly well with the next album that we are going to talk about. But
So yeah, let's smoothly move
Yeah.
on to Saint Anger
yes.
and resident fanboy in the house. Abhishek, this one's all yours.
I have a very, I mean, it's no bones. I mean, despite all my black metal and flying the flag for black metal and on this channel and otherwise, Metallica is my favorite band, right? And I had phantom menaced myself into liking Saint Anger. There was a phase where I actually thought Saint Anger, I can understand what they're trying to do. But obviously, like the Phantom Menace also, you take a step back and then you start to reevaluate what you're listening to. I think among all of us, I can easily say I've heard this album the most amount of times among the four of us. And I've gone back and forth multiple times about this album, what it is. And this is an album I feel, and I'm not being charitable here, I genuinely feel this is an album which cannot be heard without watching some kind of monster. If you have to really understand what and why this album is the way it is, why is it that it sounds the way it does, why are the lyrics this way, you have to watch Some Kind of Monster to understand where the band was. And for me, when it comes to the story of Metallica, I think Saint Anger is their most important album, because without Saint Anger, this band would have ended in 2003. Metallica would have broken up. So when it comes to that, if given that information, this album is extremely important. However, if you look at it objectively and look at the songs, barring 3 songs, every other song does not work at any discernible level. There is that raw, unvarnished garage thing, very engineered garage vibe that they wanted, which is fine, which is okay. And however, we also have to contend that this is essentially therapy and a band at the complete edge, in recorded form. There is a lot of anger in this album, not channeled well 100%. There is a lot of I won't say catharsis, but there is a lot of a band completely lost in their own hubris of their own making. So this is an album which sounds like a band completely lost. They do not know what made them Metallica in the first place. This is a band where, while recording, their bassist quit. This is a band who had auditions while recording this fucking album. Half of the songs, they are not recorded by Trujillo. It's recorded by Bob fucking Rock.
I think all the songs
Trujillo's not on the album.
Yeah, not on the album.
In the video.
Yeah, he's just there in the video. So all of this came to a head, but James having issues with Lars, these unresolved issues for decades. The fact that they never got over Cliff's death. All of those things come to a head. It's like that jackass therapist giving them bad advice over and over again. The best part about this is that
the biggest jackass in the room is not the patient, but
yeah, exactly. And then I think the best part of this documentary also is Torben Ulrich, who is Lars Ulrich's dad, who hears the album and says, delete it. But coming back to this, I think this is what they wanted to put out here.
Yeah.
This is also an album which they wanted to put out. They wanted to put out
an accident.
Sorry?
It's not an accident.
Yeah, it's not an accident. It's not like Volleyet, where they were completely lost and they kuch bhi chhap diya. See, at that time, Metallica was too big to fail also. And still today, they're still too big to fail. So regardless, even this piece of shit went to number 1 in the Billboard charts.
But Grammy nominations, boss.
And a Grammy nomination. And a win also, I think. I think they won also that one.
I think that's when we
I won't be surprised if they did win, but whatever. There was immediate backlash. They became a meme and was not helped by the fact that Napster issue was also ongoing. So, given all of this context, my rating for this again would be 6, just based on one song, and that is Unnamed Feeling, which I feel is a genuinely good song. If you remove Hetfield's completely broken vocals, if you discard that, I honestly feel it has some of his most heartfelt and really open lyrics where he opened up a lot.
Do they still play it live?
I think sometimes they do. They hardly play any songs from Saint Anger anymore.
Because I wonder when they do it live if he still sings it like that or if he sort of.
Yeah, the thing is, I think one of Hetfield's biggest best vocal performances have been on Hardwired and on 72 Seasons.
Yeah, they've been
For some reason, he's just got better. Yeah, he's just become better, very well-weathered voice, kind of like Nick Holmes now.
It suits him.
It suits him, exactly. But in this one, it was still coming off a rehab, a marriage which was not working out, a marriage with Lars which is not working out.
And the other thing on this album, which is a phenomenon we saw on Volume 8, is so much lyrical repetition.
Yeah. Tick, 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 tick,
what
tick,
was happening? Yeah, somnia, omnia, omnia, tick, 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 tock, tock. But just so many phrases just being thrown at the listener again and again and again. This album,
you call it a sign of the times. Just
I
repeat.
feel it was a sign of the times, and I don't get it. I don't really remember what was happening there that made these bands think they had to do that.
New metal.
Is new metal that repetitive? Because I was never a big new metal listener, but
it is very repetitive.
Yeah, it is, and in the sense that grunge died out fairly fast, and when new metal took over in 95-ish, it started to gain more popularity. There were a lot of bands who were coming out with lyrical garbage, and a lot of it was due to repetition.
Because
this album was written in 2002, and the biggest song was Rollin', and the lyrics of Rollin' are Rollin', 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 Rollin',
Rollin', Rollin' X8.
Okay. I had my head in the sand.
GK, your thoughts on Saint Anger?
No, let JB finish.
Okay.
And
so I was revisiting Saint Anger after a very, very long time, and I probably like Metallica nearly as much as Abhishek. And as the years go by, my appreciation for them actually grows. Because back then, Metallica was just one of several amazing metal bands I was listening to. But when I really look at what they've done with how they started with these influences, sort of dragged out from the underground of metal and then fused them into this tough sounding, versatile sound with which they could make absolute macho in your face songs, and they could turn it down and make something more sensitive, and they could go quick and punky, and they could go epic and majestic. I mean, it's just amazing what they forged. They found such a versatile style out of their influences, which were the influences every snotty-nosed kid tape trading back at that time had. Full credit. And then just James Hetfield's rhythm playing is one of the highlights of modern heavy metal. Like, we just wouldn't have so much of what we listen to today without him being such a good rhythm player and influencing so many people. And I think the last two albums that Metallica made, I think this is not just nostalgia, saying it. I think there are some really good songs in there. And the bad ones at least don't make me feel miserable. But this album, when I revisited it, the snare sound was the least problematic part of the experience for me. It's just, I think the first three songs are okay. Things do, I mean, there are still some lyrical moments and some riffy moments that sort of reach out to me because there is a deep emotional undercurrent running through this album. The fact that it doesn't work is a different matter. But the honesty does shine through. But then by the fourth song, it's just terrible. And, to their credit, they are searching far and wide. It's not that they're just listening to the top 5 new metal hits. I can hear some Helmet in there. I can hear some Tool in there. I forget which song it is, but it's a song that when it starts, it sounds so much like they must have been listening to Tool. I can really hear that they're questing, and they're doing the thing that perhaps because they're fundamentally, at least Hetfield and Ulrich are fundamentally music nerds, They're doing that thing where they're listening to a whole lot of stuff and synthesizing it. So I get that. I think of all the albums on our list today, it actually has the widest amount of ideas that they've drawn upon. Anthrax was running out of ideas. I don't think Megadeth had an idea. Uh, we'll come to Slayer obviously next, but I think Metallica actually drawing upon the widest pool of ideas, influences. There's even flashes of inspiration, but God, it doesn't work. By the time you reach Dirty Window, Invisible Kid, My World, Shoot Me Again, the middle of this album is awful. Awful. It's
Horrendous.
it just felt like the bottom was falling out of my world. I think that's when I started logging onto our group chat for this podcast and telling you all guys, I don't know if I can carry on. This bright light, should I go into it? Will you please tell my wife I loved her very much? No, it was bad. Then it kind of recovers. Sweet Amber's okay. The unnamed feeling, I still cannot wrap my head around why he's singing like that, but it's got presence as a song. And then after that, Purify and All Within My Hands. I mean, All Within My Hands is just too long, but it could have worked. Uh, so it's a very confusing opinion I have about this album. I think of all the bands in today's podcast, they really reached into their musicianship, into their ability to synthesize influences and tried to do something. But as Abhishek has said, they were just in a very broken state at the time. So I'm going to be like really wishy-washy and kind and give this a 5.
Wow. Okay.
Holy shit. The bomb is about to drop out.
Huh?
the way GK went, oh, 5. Okay.
Like,
No, like JP was saying, right? I was actually agreeing with a lot of what both of you said. I think, but I remember, like before going to this album, all I remembered was the snare. But well, listening to it, yeah, it did sound. Apart from that opening blast on Frantic, it kind of pretty much never really distracted me or came across as unpleasant or whatever. Also, probably because of the kind of extreme music we've been listening to over the since Saint Anger came out. This doesn't really sound all that bad. Maybe that's a factor as well. But for me, the villain of the piece on this album, what makes large parts of it really unpleasant to the ear is Hetfield's vocal choices. Like some of his singing, it's like he wants to be Billy Corgan, Jonathan Davis, James Hetfield, and Jerry Cantrell in the same song. And it's like, I don't know, he's got that whole Jonathan Davis whiny new metal approach going. He's got this Billy Corgan nasal thing going. And
And this is a guy who has a great deep
yeah,
voice.
exactly. Like the chorus on Unnamed Feeling, that's Hetfield being Hetfield, right? That's
Saint
and like
Anger
six
too, when he
years
says like
before,
fuck it all
Saint
and no
Anger.
regrets.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like 6 years before this on Reload, what I think is his best vocal
Yeah.
performance, Low Man's Lyric. It's not like he suddenly lost his voice or whatever. This was like a very deliberate choice. And for me, these choices just didn't make sense and they didn't work at all. And some of the backing vocal choices as well. I forget which song, but there's one very Alice in Chains type vocal harmony that they've tried for a short bit.
Named feeling only, no?
unnamed feeling only.
Uh-huh.
Chorus
Yeah. And some of the other shouty gang vocal type backing vocals that happen, it just sounds like really bad. I think Shoot Me Again. No, what was that song?
Yeah.
Dirty Window.
No, shoot
No,
me
no,
again.
not Dirty Window. Shoot Me Again. Yeah. I mean,
Dueling.
you're talking about repetition. Oh my God. Like that was, and that's also, I think, like a 7 minute song, right? Yeah, 7 minutes, which is like ridiculous. That shouldn't have been more than a 3 minute song for the radio. And they've dragged it out to 7 minutes. So, like, I understand all the inner turmoil or whatever that they were going through, but fuck, man, I don't think that's an excuse for Saint Anger. Like, it's like a really, really rubbish album from guys who know better. Like, that's the most frustrating part.
Yeah.
Like, Load and Reload, okay, fine. They're not like my favorite Metallica albums, but they still had some great songs on, like some genuinely great songs. This has none. So yeah, for me, this is like I would say a 2.
I think this album puts forward two major issues that I've had with Metallica since Newsted left. Number one being the self-same Jason Newsted. I think everyone who has heard Metallica for any amount of time will realize how important he was. I mean, since Cliff is irreplaceable as a member. He's one of the rarefied people in metal who cannot be replaced. But after him, if anyone did such a great job in elevating them in studio and especially on live, it's Jason Newsted, because the live shows suffered after this, and they're still suffering. They sound great live, but again, these songs can be elevated way too much. And he brought in so much energy in his playing, etc. Rob Trujillo is a great player, but he's exactly that. He's a hired hand. You know, he may be the longest serving Metallica bassist, but he's still a hired hand. He has always been, throughout his career, he's not a great songwriter.
Was Newsted ever like a proper part of the band? Like, was he made to feel like he was part of Metallica?
That was the biggest problem.
And did he ever really have any inputs into the songwriting?
I think beyond 3 songs, he was not given any songwriting
credit as well. Yeah.
Also,
so
and but at the same time, from a listener standpoint or from a viewer standpoint, he felt very much a part of the band in terms of the live spectacle. I mean, live shit, binge and purge. That is, in my opinion, and even S&M for that matter.
Yeah,
I feel a lot of it is what Jason Newsted does with his vocals and the bass playing or the energy in general. Because for me, especially in S&M for that matter, that Off Wolf and Man, the vocals that Jason Newsted gives, I think it's one of those moments that made me fall in love with Metallica overall. And live shit, even that Ain't My Bitch, the live version of it. Yeah, absolutely epic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right in the sense that they never treated him as a band member in terms of like beyond the 3 songs that he did songwriting for. He was treated like a throwaway spare part for like.
Yeah, and that is one part of this documentary also which talks about this. The second part which made me realize or which they've never got back is production. After Saint Anger, all of their albums are so badly produced. They had that loudness bullshit in kya tha re uska naam?
At Magnetic.
With all Nightmare Long and all of that.
Yeah, that's
the one with the grave.
That's Magnetic.
Yeah, so that album. So I feel they are in genuine need of someone, because right now their approach is whatever we record, we'll put it in a song and we'll throw it out in the open. Yes, they are a band which historically have written epics. Like, you know, some of their best songs are all beyond like 7 minutes or not. Like you have Master of Puppets, Call of the Cthulhu, all of that stuff. But now they don't have those songs. So someone in the studio, whoever that guy is, that Greg Fidelman or whoever that guy is, should tell them, boss, no. Don't put out every single idea that you have.
But that's the Steve Harris syndrome. No, I don't think these guys listen. Like, or if anyone in the studio has the balls to say, no, boss, edit. I don't think that's going to happen with bands this size. They can pretty much do whatever they want to, because that's the environment they're in, where everything they do is amazing.
Yeah. Which is why they need there's a definite requirement for an editor. Like there are that, like for example, Hardwired to Self-Destruct did not need to be 2 discs.
No.
It could have been
all these
discs of amazing material.
All these legacy bands should hire people from the Kiri group to go into the studio and listen to their rough takes. Just for honest opinions.
Specifically,
we should send Govind there. Govind will be like, fuck this, quit.
Fuck this position.
No, Govind will I listen to Sade.
Okay, I just wanted to say, like, with this particular album, I get where, like, I understand when Sain says that you have to watch the video, the documentary, to really understand where they're coming from. But like when I was re-listening to it, I decided not to, because I want to really get like the songs just on like their individual basis, the album on its own, and not basis the video. Because I may have said this previously also, I don't hate it as much, in the sense that it is the band at its most raw emotional state. I feel that Saint Anger, the title lives up to the emotion that the band was going through, I feel. But the songs, uh, for like, I remember this, there was this MTV award show sort of thing that was happening for Metallica around that album launch of
Icon.
Saint Anger. And a plethora of new metal bands were like covering Metallica songs, and they were covering the entire story and all of that stuff. And then these guys come on stage and they played Frantic. And I was like, okay, this might be one of those songs where they're playing the boring part just as a teaser for the album and everything. And then maybe it's like one of those fake out sort of thing that they are doing. And it doesn't change. It's like Frantic, tick, tick. Arey, kyun? Like, for me, again, as you guys have put it out, drums are not the problem for me here, because Lars is still in has not like completely left his practice. From what I can hear, there are certain parts where he's doing a good job. I will not slander Lars for the drum parts that he has done, for because you can't really come up with much with when there's like you're scrambling for a lot of ideas, but you're not able to glue them together. That's
Hmm.
where I feel like, as JP was also saying, they're taking too many ideas from too many different things, like a whole bunch of ideas, but then they're not able to string it together, or they're running that idea down to the ground where it's not even like the semblance of what made that idea click also is left anymore. One song which I feel like the one song that I liked was Unnamed Feeling. And if James didn't do vocals on this one, I think Dirty Window could have been like a instrumental punk sort of thing that they were doing, because it's very, ironically enough, a frantic song in terms of instrumental choices. But then Hetfield comes from left field, and that whole chorus just makes me think like, why is this happening? For me, I think the overall one thing that I think is that we are missing out is the lack of input from Kirk. There's,
Good,
I mean,
good only. That guy should not get any inputs. No say. Terrible.
but I mean, it just feels like one. See, for all the thrash bands that came out, right? Even in Load Reload, you have some lead parts or some solos, and I'm not even going back to say Black Album. I'm saying just Load and Reload. If you are taking the albums just before this, there are melodies, there are parts. I mean, in those albums, I think Hammett is also tracking the rhythm, so it gives that loose, bluesy sort of feel. So it is unique in that sense. In this album, I just feel that it's a three-piece band that's doing the whole like it's just James, Bob Rock, and Lars. Vocals, again, I feel run out of ideas fairly fast. Like doing too many things at the same time, but doing that in every song with like mixed results doesn't really hit it for me. Unnamed Feeling, I feel, had like, wow, it just rolled off the tongue. The Unnamed Feeling vocals were like, they were trying to get that Alice in Chains harmony down there, but it feels very hollow. There's no heft to the vocals that Hetfield gives, right? It's a very he's just singing from his throat. There's nothing which is giving that bass to the vocals. It's very thin. Like even if you like copy and paste that track multiple times, it will still sound as hollow. There's like one line as if you put it by
Yeah.
track, just sound hollow. And overall, it I could like in one sitting, I could not sit for like I think first song is say Frantic, Saint Anger, Some Kind of Monster. I took a break after Some Kind of Monster, spun Ride the Lightning, then I resumed. Then another three songs I had to like went to And Justice, then I resumed. So for me, it was like I'm listening to an album which was supposed to be therapeutic for the members of Metallica, but I needed therapy midway through each of the songs. So after every three songs, I was going to one classic, and I was like, yeah, I can come back to this stronger. Then I was second guessing myself. But yeah, I'd say this would be a 2.5 from my end. just purely on basis of the songs and the album overall, if I would have taken the background of this, then I would probably give it a higher score. But the album alone, I would say is a 2.5. So I think we've all given our scores to this now.
I think, yeah, JP.
All right. Yeah. All done. So moving on to the fourth and final, Diabolus and Musica. JP.
I really liked this album at one time. I think it came out in the year
98. The same year as I think Volume 8 also.
So there wasn't necessarily a lot of good music coming out from bands that I was familiar with. And I wasn't really that immersed in new metal, so I didn't necessarily have that exhaustion factor that, okay, they're just ripping off all the trendy new bands. And the album did kind of hit me. Bitter Peace, Death's Head, Overt Enemy, Perversions of Pain. I thought these were really catchy songs, and they were fast, they were furious. The riffing was plenty different. Like just the way Bitter Peace begins with these more mid-tempo groovy riffs and then builds up was very different. And I think the tuning is lower than it was on the last one, which worked, I thought. It kind of becomes a little samey, becomes kind of monotonous. I think there's a couple of songs that kind of save it later on, like Desire, maybe to an extent. Scrum is just very short, very angry, and they pulled it off. But by the time the album gets over, I think it's just a couple of ideas that they've had about how to update their sound, and those ideas have been repeated to the point of diminishing returns. That's what I feel now. At the time, I was able to listen to the album from beginning to end. I don't know, maybe I just wanted to like it or something. This time around, listening to it, what jumped out was the thing that I just alluded to, that it doesn't have a lot of ideas. They've just come out with, okay, these are the kinds of things we'll do to update our sound, and it fits better with their past work in the sense that it's still very angry, and they're not trying to become sensitive or alternative or nuanced or anything. But this time around, I realized this is just a very, very, very dull, blunt force album. I still think there are 3 or 4 songs that just by force of sheer ferocity work. But ultimately, it's it's a very monochromatic album. And I don't know if they even course corrected after this. They moved away from the new metal influence, but I don't think they ever got back their songwriting mojo for the length of an entire album subsequently.
Yeah.
In fact, I just randomly listened to a bit of Repentless after I finally made my way through this, and I was thinking, okay, I don't know, man, Repentless could actually even be as bad as this in some ways. I just don't know. I think Slayer just lost it, and this was them in that process of just songwriting ability fading away, creative ability fading away. And you can get high on your own supply. You can be Hanneman and keep telling yourself that you're still making great albums, because the brain likes to reward itself rather than spiral into self-knowledge and depression. But yeah, I would say that this is the one that's fallen most in my esteem. Because I never had much esteem for Risk to begin with. And even so, I will give it 2.
Wow.
Oof.
You
All right.
2 out of 10, guys.
You gave Saint Anger 5 and you gave this 2.
I don't know
Saint Anger has much more going on.
Yeah. Purely.
See, I had got into an argument on the group like a couple of months ago when I said the last great Slayer album was Divine Intervention.
Yeah.
And I stand by it. The only reason why is I think there is an adage which says the devil has his due. And I think the devil came for Slayer. And they came for the songwriting because they have never, ever recovered. Everything which I hear from Slayer after Divine Intervention, it's like that schoolyard bully who just stands around just posturing, acting like a hard man, or a divorced bodybuilder who who has nothing else going on in life aside from pumping iron and just abusing everyone after getting drunk. That is Slayer post Divine Intervention, and this is the this is Patient Zero. It's hollow. It's absolutely hollow. There is nothing else going in this album. I hated it when I heard it for the first time. I was like, what the fuck happened to this band? And I heard the better Slayer albums first. It was not my introduction to Slayer. I had heard the my first Slayer album was Hell Awaits. So I knew what the band could do. They wrote, in my opinion, the greatest thrash metal album that there ever is. It'll never be topped in Rain and Blood. And then you have Diabolus and Musica. I think a better estimation what this album wanted to be would probably be God Hates Us All. Because Lombardo brings in that aggression. In God Hates Us All, there are some good songs also. But Diabolus is them trying to do, and regardless of what Kerry King says now, you knew what you were doing. You know, you were trying to rip off new metal. State of Mind is a new metal song. Like, who are you kidding?
I'm going to give you a small take. I feel like there are a lot of elements which reminded me of System of a Down from this album.
Yeah, you can draw back all of that. You know, you can have System of a Down. You can see Slipknot here. The drumming is.
I mean, it was especially Stain of Mind was like proper sugar vibes. Okay, I'm like.
Yeah, Scrum, etc. Scrum was them again trying to play that hard man. You know, see, we are fucking Slayer. The logo changed. They brought in that entire that. I don't know what the fuck was going on, and it has to say they also again were caught up in the zeitgeist. They were a band which wanted to distance themselves from the likes of Metallica and Megadeth. They were touring Ozfest. They were doing all of these touring with. I think they had taken out Slipknot at that time or at this era. I think they were touring with Pantera and Marilyn Manson as well. So all of these bled into their songwriting, and unfortunately, Jeff Hanneman, it's pretty storied right now. He fell into a kind of a songwriting black hole. He could not write anymore, so he gave all of it to Kerry King. And Kerry King's writing is there for all to see.
Yeah, I said Hanneman earlier. I meant King.
Yeah. So this is essentially what I think about it. If I have to rank it, I would just base a Stain of Mind, which I think still works in a live setting. I would give it a 4.
That's generous.
4. Okay. Yeah.
You are saying, like, again, I'm still bewildered by the 5 and 2 for Saint Anger in this one, but I feel like when I was hearing this album, as Sain Saab rightly said, they have executed these ideas better in terms of God Hates Us All. I feel even Skeleton Christ, because Christ Illusion. These guys just went.
Hold on to that phrase.
Yes, but I feel that this was like they were chasing new metal and the worst parts of new metal, for that matter. I feel, or the good part, like the good parts, they were just executing it horribly. Araya sounds very tired on vocals here. There's no, I like when you listen to Araya, you know it's Araya on every other Slayer album, right? There's this aggression, there's this power that he has, and when you can couple that sharp, piercing tone with power, it's like nothing else. And this album, it just feels like that entire power is lost. So it's just a high-pitched fellow just going over the songs. The production was a huge setback for me in this album. I feel whatever they were trying to do here, they did it better in God Hates Us All and the subsequent albums. But this was a very, very, I think beyond, say, Scrum and Desire, I feel I did not enjoy the album as I expected I would. Because going into this, I was like, I already had a better idea when it came to Saint Anger and Risk in terms of how I view those albums. This album, it had been like a good amount of time since I'd heard it, and I only remembered Stain of Mind back then when I was going back into it. But now when I re-listen to it, even Stain of Mind to that extent, as I said, gave me System of a Down vibes, and I don't mind System of a Down. In fact, There are songs that I do like by the band, but here Slayer doing Search Tank and Shy is puts me in a very doubtful situation in some aspects. And I like, I'm not sure this songwriting was shared between Hanneman and King, right?
No,
Because
Yeah.
it's
I
all
feel we are
Hanneman.
shitting on this was all Hanneman,
This
correct?
is all, except for In the Name of God. The rest of the album is
Yeah, because we're
only
shitting on
Hanneman.
Kerry King. I
Drum
think
drum is also King.
yeah, because I'll
Mhm.
tell you what, we are shitting on Kerry King. I think we can do that when we talk about Repentless sometime down the line. But this album, I'm solely placing it on Hanneman's
I shit on Kerry King
track.
because he's a hypocrite. Because he took Sepultura, he badmouthed Sepultura so much when they did Chaos AD and Roots, because they went this direction, and he went on a tirade on Kerrang saying like, Slayer will rather die than do something like this. And 2 years later, you launched this.
Yeah.
Just one curious
Also,
question I have with you
in
guys.
general, like even before Chaos AD, Slayer used to be very condescending about Sepultura in
Yeah.
interviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were feeling threatened.
Mm.
Oh, mostly King.
Even through Beneath the Remains and Arise, I think one of them used to call Sepultura Slayer babies or something like that.
Yeah.
Slayer little
So,
Brazilian brother.
yeah.
So, but so here's one thing I wanted to ask you guys as well. Like, what did you guys think of the drums on this album? I felt like this was Paul Bostaph at his like like most like sloppy in certain places and very dull. Like you've come in place, and it's been a couple albums. I get that you've come in place of Lombardo and you've proved your chops also. But this album, I just felt like he's going along with the motions, but then even that he's not doing properly, and the productions are not doing it any favors. What did you guys think of Paul Bostaph on this? If
Let JK give his thoughts about the album, and then perhaps we can pick this up.
I
JK,
think
your thoughts on this? On this
Uh,
entire.
I remember being quite disappointed with it when it came out. Uh, I think In the Name of God was the only song that I remembered positively. But listening to it again, it's pretty dull. It's kind of lifeless. It doesn't have. For me, I'm not a huge fan of Divine Intervention either. Like Seasons is probably my last great uh, Slayer album, but this was definitely like a few steps below Divine Intervention. And yeah, again, I feel like Hanneman, there was a certain sense of insecurity maybe with his songwriting as well, because King wrote most of Divine, and I think Hanneman in a couple of interviews said that by the time he was ready with songs, King had already written most of the album. So here he wanted to basically stuff in every modern heavy thing that he was listening to as his influence, and that's what we ended up here with most of the songs. And most of it doesn't work, right? The Araya sounds tired. There's none of his usual tone is missing. I think Bostoff's drumming is pretty rudimentary, but I would put that down to the songwriting as well. Like, I don't think there's a lot that he could have done to improve the songs. But yeah, I mean, the chief architect of this album was Hanneman, so I think most of the criticism needs to go there as well, because these songs are kind of lifeless. I mean, it's not that it's bad for Slayer. This is a dull, bad album for any band to put out, right? Even if you look at it in isolation as a band that just formed in the late 90s and is putting this out, it's pretty, it's already pretty derivative. Even though for Slayer, they may be trying something new. And it hasn't aged particularly well at all. But I would still listen to this um, any day over the other three albums that we're talking about today. Right. So I'm in a bit of a sticky situation when it comes to giving this a rating, because I know it sucks, but it's still just a little bit better than the other three albums. So I will go with 4.5.
I forgot to give my rating. I think I'll go with the 3.5.
I feel, it's the posturing that Slayer does and continues to do, which kind of, it's not, you're not supporting a Rain in Blood or a Seasons in the Abyss or any of these albums. I know you guys have an image to maintain, but let the music also speak for itself. It's just way too much posturing that these guys do. And by these guys, I mean just Kerry King, who just rubs me the wrong way. He continues to give me that schoolyard bully feel, you know. And and the guy, he has not written a good album in 20 years. Yeah. Just calm the fuck down. Just stop shitting on other bands and what they are doing. Your solo career is nothing to talk about. All of your great material are riffs which are written by your writing partner. You don't you so just you know what I mean. So yeah, I particularly don't like this era of Slayer. It's just because of this. It's just because of them like acting like bullies with other bands also. Anyway, on that note, anything else we can add? I just wanted to just close this conversation on one note. What do you think about the legacy of all these four bands, given these albums? Who do you think has recovered best, or whose legacy will be remembered more fondly, given the context of these releases that we've had?
No, I was
post-
thinking about this, like we all talk about the sophomore slump, right? The fact that it took these bands like 8 albums to release something that was actively bad, I think says a great deal about how fucking awesome all four of them were.
Yeah.
So I think that is their legacy. Like the early albums are pretty much defining metal in terms of where they are today, I guess. Just in terms of how the sheer size of the business, I guess Metallica, pretty much the biggest rock heavy metal band in the world. So that's going to be a huge legacy. Slayer, I don't know. I feel like they've kind of uh, shat on their own legacy a little bit. But same with Anthrax and Megadeth. Like I couldn't really care about anything that they've done in years. Metallica I will still listen to when they put out a new album because that interest is always going to be there. So, but yeah, that's me really. But I think the past is far greater for at least for all four of these bands than where they are right now.
I mean, they could have just retired after 6 albums and it wouldn't have made a dent in their legacy per se. And
Yeah.
Metallica never really lost anything even when they released this third, because for most, if not almost every other band, this would be a career ender album, given how flat it fell on its face. And they've done this twice. Once with Saint Anger, next with Lulu, and they are still
Yeah.
soldiering
I
on.
mean,
Okay. So if anything, this is if two stains on a perfectly clean shirt at best for them. I think the one band who suffered the most is Anthrax, easily, because they never came back to the relevance that they had during the 80s, or hell, even till 1993 when they released Sound of White Noise. This album particularly, I feel, just destroyed whatever interest a lot of the casual listeners had towards this band, and didn't really create any new fans for them outside of people who were already into it from the Joey era, or who liked the Joey era and then came back to listen to the Joey era albums, to mixed results. And I think Megadeth has soldiered fairly well, I think, till Endgame. Then they started teetering a little bit. Dystopia was fine. And yeah, I forgot Super Collider. Yeah, that was another shit that they threw down the line in their career. But I think beyond that, it's been pretty harmless in their aspect, I feel. It's a give or take scene. Like Dystopia, I remember only because that was the time they came to Bombay for that Harley Rock Riders gig. So that's one reason I remember that album. And the one that came after it, I didn't care about it much. This album, again, when Metallica is the main reason why you're looking forward to this album, I'm a little iffy on it. And Slayer, yeah, Repentless, I just totally skipped after one listen. But till 2006, I was still on board with them. World Painted,
For, Anth-
I was like middle of the road.
for Anthrax, I feel, the biggest difference between all of these bands and Anthrax is Anthrax's core members are so involved in everything that is not Anthrax. 75 different bands Scott Ian plays for. He is there in 150 shows. He has to give his opinion on everything that is on VH1 or was on VH1. He plays poker. Charlie Benante is touring with 5 different bands. I think that did them really well for their personal bank accounts, but that
affected the band.
A lot of people, read a lot of it from that band's aspect, what this band was, because a lot of the creative input was also going in fucking go nowhere, be nothing bands like Them Crooked Vultures or some shit like that, which no one cared about, no one listens to, no one will tour your while it might be a fun thing that you do in the studio as friends, your labels will never allow this to be released or be at least never allow you to tour, because the other guys are also from different other successful bands.
Yeah.
So I think that played its. I think what kept Metallica or legacy the way it is, maybe with a few hiccups here and there, is because Metallica was and always continued to be post Cliff just 2 people. Hetfield and Ulrich, and their life is Metallica.
Focused more on, like, outside of the drama that they did, I think they were more focused about Metallica, the brand, which is why it worked very well. And
and they cut out all the middlemen. No, there is nothing which Metallica puts out that is not owned by Metallica anymore. Right from they have their own recording.
That Blackened recording.
Yeah, Blackened recordings. They have a pressing plant now. Their tours are their own. They bring out bands. They don't wait for anyone to take them on tour. They are doing you a favor if they're playing a festival with you. So everything, they are like a going concern. They are an actual corporate firm. And I mean this with all due respect. I mean, if you can get to that level, why won't you want to be at that level? Slayer, I feel in that bid to remain cultured, that has fucked them a lot. We want to be cult, but नहीं, हम लोगों को पैसा भी चाहिए. तो कैसे होगा? तो अभी भी second on bill बजा रहा है.
I think that's mainly Kerry King.
Whatever it is, but it is what it is. And I think like one band I genuinely thought will never come back after they've retired was Slayer. I honestly thought if you would have told me like 10 years ago Slayer is going to retire in 2020 and then they are going to come back again, I wouldn't have believed you. But Slayer did that, and that I feel was a huge hit on their legacy and the way I personally see them. And Megadeth as well, Sensitive, Mahan. So as long as Sensitive exists and Sensitive wants to do things, Megadeth will continue, because Megadeth is just Dave Mustaine and Dave Mustaine is Megadeth. So yeah, JP, your final thoughts on the matter?
We have to rate this also, by the way. All the albums with their respective scores.
So I've got some very interesting results, but JP first.
I think Megadeth just lost their way. And after this, they've just been trying to get back to where they were with Rust in Peace in terms of the songwriting, the song structures, the style. That's all they've been trying to do. And insofar as it has come anywhere close to working, it's listenable. But insofar as it's never going to reach that level again, but Mustaine just shot his shot. And their entire career after Euthanasia is a postscript of varying degrees of palatability. Each time somebody said, oh, now it's a return to form, like United Abominations or whichever album it was in between that was being touted as return to form, I think, okay, yeah, this is a little better than they've been doing. But somehow it's always felt like, I think particularly after bragging so much about not having guitar solos on Risk, Mustaine has just been overcompensating for that dreadful mistake. And I don't know, I just feel they're a band without a center ever since then. Metallica, I think, have recovered the best, not only in terms of business and standing in the industry, but they actually have managed to sort of figure out again, okay, these are the parts that make us good and these are the parts that maybe we shouldn't revisit. Even so, the songwriting is loose. It's self-indulgent. Mm,
A lot of bloated,
huh?
a lot of bloating in the albums.
Yeah, there's a lot of bloating. I won't say songwriting is loose, but I'd say it's self-indulgent. Um, it's like Stephen King, after he had so many bestsellers in the 80s, nobody bothers editing him anymore. And hopefully, like Stephen King, at some point they'll realize, okay, let's be a little more disciplined. But he still writes too many books, and I don't know who's still reading them, but I suppose people are. Um, I think they recovered the best both as a financial proposition for the band and creatively. Anthrax, unfortunately, did make better albums later on, with Joey back in the band, but it just I don't know. I think they squandered away whatever goodwill they had got around the time of what was it called? Persistence of Time.
We've Come For You All, I'd also imagine.
Huh?
That was a very well received album. We've Come For You
We've
All is a
come
fan
for you all.
favorite.
And that
Yeah,
was
we've
the same year as Saint Anger. But see, I think like for as much as I love that album, I got a tattoo based off of that album only from Anthrax. But it was also well received for the reason that of the situation that the band was facing, the whole Anthrax attacks and their response to it, and all of that, so on and so forth. That was one reason why it was well received. And one thing that I'm realizing is that with Saint Anger, even though it was a shit show of an album, they marketed the hell out of Some Kind of Monster, and that majorly helped them kind of give them a cushion for the result that was Saint Anger, the album.
But let's hear JP's final thoughts. JP, just to cap off that discussion.
Yeah, so I think Anthrax, unfortunately, I think they never got back. It made a huge dent, this downward spiral that they had in the first three albums of the John Bush era. And even though they've made better albums since then, I think they've always sort of. I don't think they'll ever be on the level they could have been. I feel, and some of the albums subsequently do have, cohesive songs, do have a way better effort than either Stomp or Volume 8 were. But my feeling about them, and this could be just purely my opinion of them, is that they kind of squandered and never got back where they could have been as a band, even if musically they've often bounced back from this absolute worst album of theirs. So it's a little sad. I think Slayer continued to be a huge band in terms of packing out arenas and permanent spot in the Big Four and so on. I think Anthrax became that band that everyone thought, why are they exactly in the Big Four?
The tankard of
Yeah,
to me.
which they don't really deserve.
Yeah, they don't
They
deserve
kind of
it.
brought it upon themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, I think Metallica recovered in many, many ways, never really got back to what they were. I think Slayer did bounce back from how bad this album was, but I don't find anything the rest of their career very relevant to me. I think Megadeth realized their mistake, but never really compensated for it. None of the albums, even though they've tried to go back to their earlier sound, have felt. I don't know, something just happened. Some switch went off in Mustaine. Anthrax, I just feel it's a little tragic. Yeah, that's my overall.
So GK the winner.
What these eighth albums have meant for these bands.
Okay, so rounding out or crowning the king of the dung heap, if you will. Coming in at 4, average rating on 10 of 3.5 is Diabolus and Musica. So I guess that's our least favorite of these 4. Coming in at 2, tied for second place, averaging out at 4 out of 10 is both Saint Anger and Risk, which means that our favorite album out of these 4 is Volume 8, The Threat is Real.
How did this happen?
Buoyed by charitable.
Which got very charitable ratings by Ani. Obviously, you gave it a 6, and Abhi, you gave it a 5.
Abhi didn't give it
which
a 6.
Which made it enough to have an average rating of 4.5 out of 10.
No, this is some voodoo mathematics you're doing. I don't buy this. This is Florida. This is hanging chads. I'll practice.
These are times
So
where I
after
question myself, why
almost
do I
2 hours
do
of
this?
shitting on
I think this is the
Anthrax,
only time. This is the only time Anthrax have won in anything when it comes to music.
Oh shit!
Most
Okay.
dog shit album.
Yeah.
It's the okayest album of the four.
yeah, I guess so. I mean,
The
even
top
with
of the
the
garbage.
country rock and
Yeah.
everything else, like
So
God
you're
damn.
saying Anthrax is the highest, Metallica and Megadeth are tied, and Slayer's at the
And Slayers at the bottom. Yeah.
You're giving comfort to Sensei Dave also in the sense that they're
yeah.
on equal footing for once.
Equal footing for
Yeah,
once.
I know.
And I can't
Yeah.
believe this. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
but if we were to look at it
discussion.
individually, today JP was the harshest critic,
Oh
an
dear.
average rating of 3 per album. Ani and Abhi are a lot more generous, especially Abhi, though
Very kind.
amazingly generous, very kind to Risk and Saint Anger
And
with
Volume 8.
6 each. And Volume 8 also, surprisingly. I thought you were going to dump on Volume 8
No, no,
for
no,
like
no.
a
I
very
thought
late.
my outlook towards this entire thing was I was prepared for the three of you to shit on every single album. So I came in with my headspace was I'm going to be the most charitable to all of these albums, barring Diabolus and Musica, because that album just rubs me the wrong way.
I used to like Diabolus, strange as it is to say, but I could not. I could not justify liking it anymore.
What
Cool.
about it?
Okay, with that, let's wrap it up for today. Tune in next week when we discuss Metallica and Lou Reed's collaboration called Lulu, which will also probably go on for about 2 hours. And in the
As long
meantime,
as the
like,
album.
share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Check out Radionuclides, check out Djinn and Miskatonic. You'll find links in the description. Tune in again
Hey,
for
give
some more
it a small,
discussions like this.
small
Yeah,
nod.
yeah. Two members of If Writ are also here.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Check out If Writ as well. We'll put that link down. That's Anirudh and JP's side project, along with a couple of other guys from the Indian metal scene. And thanks for tuning in. Cheers. Take care. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.